there, and welcome to the Untitled Film Podcast.
I feel like you're not trying with these voices anymore. I think this quite low effort. It's just you used to do all these kind of weird, strange voices, and now it's just like I'm going to be a little bit weird, go up a bit and go down a bit. Like
Last week you moaned I didn't do anything. Sometimes you moan I do too much. Sometimes you moan I'm too loud.
There is a sweet spot.
Well,
you're losing it, man.
there's a sweet spot with hosting a podcast as well. Something you've yet to find.
Are you going to threaten me with replacing me with Dog Brain again? Because it's not happened. I'm still waiting. The thing about threats
Well, I'm seeing Dog Brain tonight, so...
The thing about threats is you've got to carry them through.
I'm seeing Dog Brain tonight, so we'll have a discussion about that.
Oh, I'm sure he'd love coming down to Folkestone every week. Or, even
do it
doing
remotely. He'd
even
love
doing
it.
it remotely. Yeah.
Love it. Anyway.
I still wait. I am irreplaceable. I'm invincible.
Anyway. Welcome to this episode of the podcast. This is our Halloween episode, and as we like to call it, it's the death of people's careers.
We did have a Halloween episode planned, but timings and what have you got in the way, and we were going to watch some horror movies, but it just kind of everything came ahead at once. So we're doing another very special episode, and we're going to have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I'm quite enjoying these very special episodes.
Me too.
Actually.
I like the banter. I like the sort of more rhythmic sort of thing.
So yeah, you may see more of these going into the new year. The next one, depending what we decide to do, may be a very special episode as well. Certainly be an international one, but that's another story. You can hear about that in the future.
We will.
But no, welcome to this week's episode. So, the world, we are going to be talking about celebrities who you're like, oh, this guy is going to be the next big, or lady, is going to be the next big thing in Hollywood. And everyone's like, oh, he's going to be in a big blockbuster, and he's just like won an Independent Spirit Award. 10 years later. You remember that guy who was in that movie?
So I like to call it The Movie Stars That Never Were.
The movie stars that never were, indeed.
Title.
Yeah. And I'm going to start us off. So my first person is Emile Hirsch.
Oh, yeah. He's also one of mine.
No, it's not really. It's actually Callum's. You can start us off with Emile Hirsch.
Okay. So Emile Hirsch, as Johnny said...
I just knew you'd do that one.
Mid to late 2000s, he was one of those guys that was being talked about in the same breath as someone like Leonardo DiCaprio or someone like that. He was in Into the Wild, the Sean Penn film, got him a lot of critical acclaim. Lords of Dogtown. He was in like a slew of those edgy teen boy movies that also would have Justin Timberlake or one of the other guys around.
Yeah, Justin Timberlake, that edgy guy.
Yeah, exactly. He tried to recreate himself, although he's not faring too well after Britney Spears' autobiography. But anyway, that's a tangent. And then it all went wrong. And I remember this person is actually the inspiration for this topic, because I remember about a year or so ago, I found myself thinking, what the hell happened to Emile Hirsch? Better Google him. Attacked and assaulted a woman at the Sundance Film Festival in 2015. Oh dear. Because
That's still quite late, though. I feel like his career was already pretty waning at that point.
I did think that too, because I was looking today and I assumed it must have been earlier, but he'd already been in some straight-to-video. But I think what we're seeing is Hollywood will tolerate a lot, but if you misbehave on set, or if you're not a very nice person, they do quietly shuffle away a career, because...
I do wonder if maybe he wasn't great on set.
Exactly. So recently... They're still in the rumour mill, but Abigail Breslin has accused of the guy who played the Two-Face in The Dark Knight, whose name's suddenly Aaron Eckhart, of not being kind of sexual assault or anything like that, just being a bit of an arsehole. And I did wonder, it's been a while since I've seen him in a big movie, and before the Abigail Breslin thing.
He played arseholes very well. I'm just going to say he played arseholes very well.
Before the Abigail Breslin thing. And... it got me thinking, but before that, I was like, where did he go? He's in these kind of straight Amazon movies. What the hell happened? He was in a big blockbuster. I
really liked him as well.
Yeah, and he was in Thank You for Smoking. Yeah, exactly.
Stuff,
and In the Company of Men.
He was in a big action film as well, wasn't he? He's like a commander or something.
Yes. So he did one of those Liam Neeson-esque films that doesn't star Liam Neeson. So it is kind of a truism. If you're a nasty piece of work, Hollywood will, and as long as your films aren't profitable, they'll quietly...
Unless you get super A-list.
Yeah, exactly.
then you have to have a bit of a fall, and then when you have the fall, like Johnny Depp,
Yes,
like,
exactly.
they tolerated his alcoholism while he
up
was,
until a point, and
yeah.
then when he stopped being an A-lister, they go, okay, it's time to cut his strings. But Marlon Brando, Val Kilmer, Steven Seagal, these are all people of a type, different talents, but of a type is that they have a reputation for bad behavior, so they're quietly shuffled away. And the bullet really was the Sundance thing. That was kind of the last, okay, we can't put him in anything. This is a public thing. So I've picked 3 actors, and I picked them of a type. So one is someone who is surrounded by a bit of controversy and shuffled away because of it. And this is Emile Hirsch's mine. So, Johnny, do you have anything to add to the Emile Hirsch discussion?
I mean, I think personally it was Speed Racer that did it for his career.
That was like 2008. That was before. Was it before?
Yeah, but what did he do afterwards?
That's a
Nothing.
good question. I might have to IMDb
I actually
that.
have a list here. One sec. Let's find my list. Do.
Because Into the Wild was the big one. Was that 2007 or 8?
That was before, certainly before.
Because that was 2007, I think, and then Speed Racer was 2008, I think.
Emile Hirsch.
I mean, having a big flop to your name and being
So
an arsehole
he
isn't helpful.
So, Dangerous Love of Altar Boys was 2002. The Emperor Club in the same year.
Those sound like the kinds of films where if you're a young, edgy actor,
Exactly.
that's your calling card.
Then The Girl Next Door, Imaginary Heroes, Lord of Dogtown.
Well, yeah, that
quite
was
big.
one of them.
Alpha Dog.
That was another one of them. The edgy teen boy mid-2000s movies.
Then Into the Wild, which you got Screen Actors Guild nomination for.
So that was his, like, this guy's the next DiCaprio.
Then Speed Racer was like, this is going to be the big hit.
Big smash hit.
And then afterwards, it was the American actor settled for minor roles in lower profile projects until the
So
2015
it
event. So it
didn't
was
help.
Speed Racer.
It certainly didn't help. I mean, having a massive flop to your name
We're
and being an
spending
asshole,
$200 million on a movie.
that only one person wants to see. Although slowly getting a few articles written about it. But yes, that's my an example of someone who's apparently a bit of a mean person to be around, and the idea that Hollywood will kind of cut your strings if they think you're getting a bit too big. And if he was an arsehole and he had Speed Racer as a flop, that's a pretty good indication for his agents and whoever else to go, all right, I think we can cut this guy. He's not going to be the next DiCaprio.
This isn't one of my 3, but kind of Army Hammer, similar things happened to. Like
Similar thing, yeah, definitely.
Obviously, they were trying to make him a thing for a long time. They kept giving
A
him loads
long
of stuff.
time.
And then they were like, well, we can't make him a thing. We've put him in 3 $200 million movies and it's not working. So then they were like, we're going to make him an indie thing. And then they kind of made him an indie thing.
For a bit.
And then, yeah, what happened.
It's also a thing about white
That he's a
privilege.
cannibal.
White privilege and wealth privilege, because of course he has both. Because someone was pointing out after the guy that was who played Aladdin couldn't get a job for Love Nor Money after being in a $1 billion movie.
That made loads of money.
That made loads of money, and people saying, "Oh,
Despite
he's
being
not
shit.
a very good actor." So, well, that's not the point. He's just as handsome and has had a bigger hit than Armie Hammer. But why is Armie Hammer keep getting chances where someone who's Asian can't get work for Love Nor Money after getting a big blockbuster? What's the deal here? So it is
Although
part.
I actually always liked Armie Hammer. I thought he always brought something to roles. I thought he was quite interesting.
I mean, I do like him in Free Fire, for example. I think he's probably the best in show there, in a really good cast.
I kind of think if he hadn't
Done
turned
what he
out to
did.
be a crazy sex pest, to say the least, I kind of feel like he could have been a George Clooney-esque actor in that, like, okay, they did kind of make George Clooney a thing, but he was never like. He's A-list as a person. Everyone knows who George
Yes.
Clooney is. Everyone loves George Clooney, but he was never like a Marvel super.
Well,
I know he was Batman, but that wasn't like the greatest Batman, was it? Let's be
He's
honest.
an A-lister amongst kind of older audiences that can get you to a movie that makes $100 million, but he's not a $1 billion guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For example, Tomorrowland was just like with George Clooney. It's like, oh, that film that none of my kids know who the lead actor is.
Yeah,
It's that
exactly.
kind of thing.
He can sell you good coffee.
Yes, exactly. Shia LaBeouf is also of a similar type, talented, but has his problems and his issues.
I feel like Shia LaBeouf's mixed from a talented point of view because he would have had a similar career in my opinion to Nicolas Cage.
Yes.
In that, like,
Strange, but also occasionally brilliant.
hits gold.
Yeah.
But often not so much. But yeah, obviously he's had his major issues too.
So that's, I think, a good discussion, a good kind of overview of the kind of the nasty kind of like what happens. Because to kind of bring this home, there was an article I read not so long ago about written from the point of view of someone who ferries around actors at like the big festivals and like a handler. And she said there's 3 types. The very young actors, their first festival, they'll treat you like your best mate. And they'll take selfies with you and invite you to parties because it's all new to them. The old pros will be cold but professional. They'll be polite, but it's a job. The worst ones, the ones you really got to look out for, the most kind of nefarious ones, are the ones who've their 3rd festival, because they've been, by this point, they've been told they're hot shit, so they act like they're hot shit, so they bully people. They start to kind of get, and this is the type that's, Emile Hirsch is the kind of that ilk. And, you know, it was at a film festival, it was a Sundance Film Festival where he assaulted someone. And the only thing he's been able to get of note is a small role in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which he was all right in. He isn't a bad actor, certainly, but it's not enough.
Yeah, fair enough. Right, my first one, I'm going to do a dual person.
Ooh,
And it's because I kind of think they have the exact same problems.
Sure.
The first one is Sam Worthington.
Oh, yes.
And the second one is Garrett Hedlund.
Yes. Yes.
Both kind of had a bit of indie success, not a huge amount, but a bit of indie success. And then both were just given massive franchise movies. In the case of, what's his name? Of Sam Worthington, 2 massive movies.
Terminator and Avatar.
Both of which made, Terminator
didn't
made okay
underperforms,
money.
but it was okay.
Yeah. And one that was the biggest movie of all time. And then all I know he's done since is about 5 years ago, a crime TV show on Netflix.
Yes.
So, and then Garrett Hedlund.
I think he's done slightly better. He's kind of more comfortable on television, it seems, because he was in a TV show called Tulsa King. But still, it's going from the lead of a blockbuster to Garrett Hedlund.
Although I would say with Garrett Hedlund, apparently he turned down some really big roles.
Really?
Apparently he turned down 50 Shades of Grey.
Oh, okay. So
Ray.
did Charlie Hunnam, who could also be one of these guys.
And apparently he also turned down Finnick in Hunger Games.
Wow, okay. No, that's I've got a bit of respect there.
It's interesting as to why. But, yeah, he kind of came on to, I suppose... It's an interesting one. I love Tron Legacy. I'm about the only person
You're a big fan.
who does, mainly because of the soundtrack, but I just think it looks really cool. Yes, the plot's not stellar. And yes, the Jeff Bridges face stuff's not good. But like everything outside of that, I think it's a bit like Tomorrow. I go in hard for Tomorrowland as well, actually. And I think both of them tried to just do something. They don't feel like Marvel movies. They don't feel like cookie cutter. And yeah, okay, it's a bit like you. It's actually quite a you thing in that, like, they've swung. They've tried to do something a bit fun and a bit different. And
I like both.
They've both not quite worked that well, but it doesn't feel like you're just watching Ant-Man 17.
Well, exactly. No, they're both very interesting films.
But yeah, they're my two. Or what do you think about those two?
No, actually, I think that's very good examples because it was kind of similar to what my second choice was going to be. And this type is someone I call, it's just the wrong moment for them. Mm-hmm. Like, they're talented, but they pick that blockbuster, and that blockbuster doesn't end up being a blockbuster. And my example is going to be Brandon Routh.
He's on my list, actually. He's not, he's one of mine.
Oh, really? Okay.
But you go for it.
But the thing about Brandon Routh is that he is perfectly talented. And we've seen him in things after Superman Returns, where
Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah, Scott Pilgrim, where he shows he can be really funny. And he's been in the DC television universe, where he's been very charming but it was a strange thing because they made Superman Returns, which was so expensive, something like $260 million back in 2006.
One of the most expensive films of all time.
Because now that doesn't sound kind of crazy, but in 2006, that's bonkers money.
Like $350 million.
Yeah, exactly. Now. And Superman's never been kind of hugely profitable. But worst decision is that Bryan Singer, the director, chose to make it like a canonical, like, Superman 3. So he's essentially playing Christopher Reeve. And he does look a lot like Christopher Reeve. I mean, he's got very similar facial structure.
That's why he was hired, because it was Christopher Reeve. There's nothing to do with acting ability.
Well, exactly. But it isn't his fault. It's the script. Is that he's playing Christopher Reeve. The smile, the twinkle, the saving a cat from the tree. Superman 1 ends with him looking directly into the camera and smiling. And they go, okay, Brandon, you're going to be playing Christopher Reeve, not Superman, Christopher Reeve. But you're not allowed to smile. Your Superman is moody. You're a moody Christopher Reeve. So you take away everything about Christopher Reeve that makes him interesting and go, you're not allowed to do the interesting things. You have to be sullen, moody, frown. It's like, what are you doing to this poor boy? And then, of course, the film flopped anyway. And it's just an example of someone who's a perfectly nice guy. He didn't assault anyone that we know of. He seems to get on with people very well. He seems personable. All the stars should have aligned for him, as they should have done for Garrett Hedlund, as they should have done maybe less so for Sam Worthington because he's a bit blank. But still, he's a nice guy, and usually nice guys do okay once they get their foot in the door.
A chunk of movie. It's a bit like until Deadpool.
Ryan Reynolds. Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds, they just kept giving him movies.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
They always say, people just really must like hanging around with him on set.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's nothing wrong with these guys. They seem like perfectly affable guys. It's just the stars do not align at a point when the stars should align. And he appears in the flop movie, and a lot of the blame gets put on his shoulders quite unfairly, I feel, especially in retrospect, because he is really funny in Scott Pilgrim. Looks like somebody wants to get funky.
I mean, let's be honest, the issue with that movie is the direction. It's just really bland.
It is.
And
it's very, very bland.
Like, nothing really... I mean, the only thing, ironically, that works in it is Kevin Spacey.
Who's allowed to be a bit camp and silly. And like, he screams, like, wrong, which became a meme.
Yeah, and maybe he was allowed to do that because him and Bryan Singer were besties because they're both scumbags.
Yeah, because they're both rapists.
Yeah,
Allegedly,
and proven not in court in the case of...
whatever.
We don't want to get sued here.
Yeah, okay.
But basically, they were rapists.
Yeah, and so he's the only one on the right tone for what this movie should have been. I wanted to see a Superman who smiles at the camera and all that kind of stuff, and he could have done it, but he wasn't allowed to do it. And it's just one of those cases, sometimes the stars don't align for someone. They're perfectly lovely people.
Yeah, fair enough. Someone else as mine, this is slightly different. Slightly because of controversy, slightly because of, I think, saying some bad things about royalty in interviews. Minnie Driver.
Oh, yeah, she's great.
She had the world at her feet.
Oscar nominated for Good Will Hunting.
Good Will Hunting. And then, and I don't know if there was other things already happening behind the scenes, but really dragged on, I think it was Helen Mirren in an interview.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What did she say?
2002. I actually don't know. Can I find it? Let's see if we can find it. But anyway, and then her career seemed to hit a bump, shall we say. So you've got 1995 GoldenEye, then you've got...
She's funny in that too.
1996 Sleepers, 97 Grosse Pointe Blank and Good Will Hunting. There's 3 movies, but not so exciting in 1998. 1999 Tarzan, An Ideal Husband, Princess Mononoke doing a voice. She's doing a lot of voice acting at this point. 2000 Slow Burn, Beautiful, Return to Me. And then kind of movies you haven't heard of until 2004 Phantom of the Opera, I suppose.
And by that point, it's a comedy kind of side role. It's not the main role anymore.
And then there's not a huge amount else.
And the secondary issue you have is Hollywood sexism, because they consider, you can be a romantic lead into your 40s and 50s if you're a guy, like George Clooney with his salt and pepper hair. But if you're a woman, your romantic career or your action career or your comedy career, you're not getting lead roles in your 40s. You're playing mums. I can't remember who it was, but she said there was an actress who once said, on the day, it was Carrie Ann Moss. She said on the day that she turned 40, she got the first offer to play a grandma. And so that's a part of the problem. Yeah, exactly. But there's also the problem, I think, I'm not sure if she directly had anything to do with Harvey Weinstein, if she was one of the people that he abused. But of course, Miramax did produce Good Will Hunting, so it is possible she dated Matt Damon, who was one of the boys that Harvey Weinstein slightly protected. So that there could have been some I've got to get out of this fucking place. Can't be in this horrible a Hollywood cesspit anymore.
She did still manage to get some TV roles afterwards, but nothing really seemed to stick. I remember The Riches with Eddie Izzard being a big.
I think she got a Golden Globe nomination.
Yeah,
for that.
but I think it only got 2, maybe 3 seasons.
Yeah, I think it did get 2 seasons.
Which is slightly disappointing. But yeah, I remember that being quite a big one.
But she's great. I really like Minnie Driver. I did wonder where she went,
especially that kind of like that mid-90s period. Like you couldn't throw a ball of some,
and I'm not sure what
without her like hitting a really good Minnie Driver.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not sure what she said about Helen Mirren or the Queen, but
not the Queen. I was calling Helen Mirren the Queen.
But we do have a strange thing with royalty in our movie where we're quite uncritical about them. So maybe her comments were more innocent, but
Let's find out.
You know how the British press can be like, this person slams the great masterpiece of British cinema. What is the Queen? What she did? Like, and it might have just.
It wasn't actually the film. It was like, oh no, it was Judi Dench. I was just saying, a Queen of cinema.
Oh, a Queen. I see. A Queen. I see.
She described Dame Judi Dench as very small, round, and middle-aged. British-born Minnie Driver made her remarks in an interview with the Los Angeles newspaper. In England, with all due respect, we have some of the plainest actresses in the entire world as our greatest.
Well, maybe that was a bit wrong-footed.
Maybe it's because theatre is the great love of England, but you have Judi Dench, a very small, round, middle-aged, lovely mothering type, playing Cleopatra. Minnie Driver, 31, who lost a huge amount of weight after moving to America 7 years ago, can be relied upon to...
Now, was that comment necessary? I hate it when articles do that.
Yeah, no, that's... this is on the Daily Mail. So
okay. Well, there you go.
I censored the bit where it said the bitchy comment, because I feel that's quite a sexist way of writing it.
I fucking hate these...
The Daily Mail.
These newspapers,
but anyway, that wasn't the greatest comment.
It wasn't the greatest comment, but still, I mean, as controversies go, that's pretty mild.
Yeah, it's not career-ending, is it?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not saying it ended her completely, but it definitely seemed to... The trajectory of her career suddenly took a downward
it certainly didn't help.
And it's probably one of those things. She probably said it like an award ceremony after 3 drinks, and she didn't mean it to be quite as bitchy as it sounded.
Yeah, no, I'm sure she didn't kind of run up to a journalist and say, now let me dish you the fucking dirt on British actresses.
Yeah, they're all round and middle-aged, unlike me in America. Yeah, I'm sure that's not what happened. I'm sure she was asked a question and someone said, what's the difference? Well, it's because they're all a bit theatre-y and they're a bit older, so they're a bit, anyway.
And we do rely on lovies a bit. I mean, I sometimes do wonder if a lot of the quote-unquote greatest actors of all time from England really are the greatest actors, or if they're just very, very posh.
Well, that's a whole other argument with all these, the Benedict Cumberbatches and things of the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Very...
We do like a type, and we always have.
Yeah. It's not... is it RADA?
RADA and a lot of those.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Anyway... we digress, but yes. So Minnie Driver is my next one. Nice. What about yours?
So my third one is I wanted to pick a sort of more happy ending, sort of kind of umbrella, and my example of that would be someone like Jay Baruchel, who is someone who had a period in Hollywood. He was a supporting role in Judd Apatow movies when they were at their hottest. He was one of those boys, one of that ilk. And then off the back of that, being a sort of young man who's attractive in a sort of geeky way at a time when that was like Michael Cera and Justin Long, both of whom actually could be good examples of this too, were given a few blockbuster roles, and then they turned out not to be blockbuster roles. Like I'm thinking of The Sorcerer's Apprentice, which was an attempt to do an urban Harry Potter in New York, and he was in She's Out of My League, an attempt at a romantic comedy. On paper, those kind of look right. Geeky guys are hot. He's Judd Apatow, so he's got that kind of thing going for him. And then the movies sort of, they weren't the big blockbusters, but it's more to do with the fact that he probably could have stuck around even with those flops because people like him. And he does occasionally pop up in a Hollywood thing, but he's someone who's very comfortable doing stuff in Toronto, Canadian films that are a little bit more personal, a little bit stranger. So I wanted to pick a happy example of someone who's sort of withdrew himself
I was
rather
gonna say,
than.
I always got the feeling he turned some bigger roles
Yeah.
down and things. I think he kind of had that taste in Hollywood and maybe made enough money that he was like a bit like Jesse Eisenberg, where he went, you know what, I'm just going to hang out in my apartment and adopt lots of cats. And obviously Jesse Eisenberg still pops up in quite a few things.
No, he does,
But
yeah.
like he doesn't just go. He's not Sam Jackson. He doesn't try and squeeze 7 movies in a year and
Yes.
just take anything.
And Jay Baruchel has
I'll do
done.
it. I'll do it.
He was in Stuber, which was a Netflix thing with Arnold Schwarzenegger. So he's still around, but he's not nearly as interested as being.
But I thought that's
Oh, sorry, not Stuber. Sorry, there was a Arnold Schwarzenegger TV show where he's an unassuming dad. But what's this? Is he a private detective? And then it's,
I never saw that one. Stuber's
that's
Dave Bautista.
It is
and
Dave Bautista. I mixed them up, but it's
Joel.
I think it might be something like Gunter, or it's a name, the name of the Arnold Schwarzenegger's character. But he seems far more interested. He wrote the Goon movies, and I think he directed the second one. And he, of course, appeared in most recently Blackberry. But I think it was a choice because he was at the time engaged to Alison Pill, both of whom are Canadian, and they were in Canadians in Hollywood. And one of the reasons why they broke up is that she wanted to be permanently in Hollywood,
yeah.
and he didn't. He wanted to visit LA to do a thing here and there, but then he wanted to do stuff in Toronto, and amicably they split up. And actually, it's very similar. Another example of this is someone like Eric Bana, who again he had that period of time when he was really hot.
He's on my. I've got. I
got
put a very long list because I knew Callum was going to steal half of them. So.
But because they're of a type, so I'm just trying to think of others of a type, because he's someone, again, he comes into Hollywood for like a month to do a film, but he's far more comfortable in Australia kind of doing his own thing now. And there is a type of people, Ben Chaplin, who was in that sitcom, I don't know if you remember, Game On in the 90s. And then he was in The Truth About Cats and Dogs, so after season 1 he leaves, and he had a little bit of a period, but then it's like, I just want to do British theatre. I don't want to with the round faced, plain middle aged Judi Dench. I don't want to do these Hollywood films anymore.
It happens a lot with British and Canadian actors. I think you have to be a very particular person to like living in Hollywood and like that kind of, and for like doing it for a long period. Like it's one of those things. But maybe when you're like getting earning your chops and things and starting out, maybe it's fun and cool. But there's only so many parties you can go and smooze with arsehole producers and things like that. And it is and I think that's it. I think if you stop turning up at the right parties and stop chatting to the right people and networking when you're drunk and blah blah, blah, unless you're like super A-list, it is a bit of a struggle. And I can totally imagine that. He made a couple of $1 million from a couple of Judd movies, and then he made $100,000 an episode for Undeclared. So, you got a season, so that's $2 million.
I very much doubt he got $100,000 for Undeclared.
It was a network show.
It was a 1-season show. You get that 7 seasons in.
100,000? No, you get $1 million 7 seasons in on a successful show.
I kind of, and especially at the time, Jay Baruchel was a nobody. I doubt he got that.
Maybe 50,000 or whatever. He made some money off that and whatever. And he probably made $5 million and probably went, I can have a really good life in Toronto with $5 million and just occasionally top it up with something I enjoy that I can probably film down the road or do a voice role for or something.
Well, yeah, and he had that in his back pocket, the fact that he was in the How to Train Your Dragon movies.
Exactly.
So that's
$500,000.
Exactly. That's a good sort of thing to fill up the coffers.
Standing in a cupboard in his bedroom, probably.
Yeah, exactly. And they turned that into a TV show. So I think he did something like 100 episodes of several Dragon TV show splits between however many shows, because they did a few spin-offs.
Yeah, exactly. My last person is Josh Hartnett.
Oh, yeah.
Which I don't know why his career faded, really, unless you can think of anything in particular.
I think I do remember reading an interview. I think it's a similar situation to Jay Baruchel, but less. I think I'm done here. I liked doing these Hollywood films, but I think I want to move back to Toronto. I think it was more severe anxiety. Like, he's a handsome guy, but deep down he was a very shy, very reserved person. And the movies he liked doing, but what he really hated doing was sort of more the press, and the fact that he didn't like the movies were kind of dressing him up to be this kind of sexy, kind of smoochy sort of guy. He just wanted to do good stuff. He didn't want to be the action hero, but of course he was a bit too good looking to be anything other than the kind of co-lead of Pearl Harbor.
But then the weird thing is, but then he had like a massive run, like in the last. Basically, he's done a lot of.
He
production
seems
recently.
to be having a bit of a resurgence.
He does. Yeah.
He recently showed up in Oppenheimer, which grossed nearly $1 billion.
Also, Black Mirror. But he has done quite a lot of TV stuff over the years.
He's done.
I think he produces quite a lot now. I think he's quite a prolific producer.
I think he seems to be kind of more in a happy place where he can do something like what's that big TV show he did? BBC America, Gothic kind of thing. Penny Dreadful.
Yeah.
He seems to like relishing in the and Josh Hutcherson. Sorry, not Josh Hutcherson. Josh Hartnett. Josh Hutcherson could be a similar one. Similar to Rupert Grint now, like showing up as and Rupert Grint in M. Night Shyamalan stuff and sort of nothing else. He seems to be kind of like, I think this is my right level of limelight. So again, I think this is another example of a happy ending where someone who kind of really didn't like the system and wanted to kind of remove himself, but more in an anxious way than Jay Baruchel, who's more like, okay, I think I'm done here.
Yeah, I think that's is fair. I mean, I can totally see that. I don't understand why Sam Jackson still needs to do 7 movies a year. I'd be exhausted.
It's addiction, I think.
Yeah.
There's some people who are addicted to work.
Whereas I would be like, well, I've done a TV series. It's got 100 episodes. I've made $100 million and I'm getting $2 million a year for the rest of my life. I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm going to go and live in Thailand on a beach and eat coconuts for the rest of my life. I don't well, that's probably why I'm not a billionaire. I don't have that kind of like. If
only you had the right mindset, you'd be a billionaire.
I know. I like having certain amounts of money. It's handy, but there's only a point. And I kind of feel like that. I think that, and that's why I'm like someone like Daniel Day-Lewis. I totally get. I get like he is. I want to be these people. I want to have like this. The greatest
and he has
actor
to
of all times, and I'll do. I'm going to do 5 years between roles so I can really encompass each role. Fair play to you. And I also understand like people that like Josh Hartnett or Jay Baruchel that's like, right, get in there, make a bit of money young, and then I'll just do some fun every couple of years, do something a bit fun, and like I'll do some voices of some animated things occasionally just to top up the old pension plan. I totally get that. What I don't get is the people that or like Nick Cage as well as another one, although he is broke, so that's probably why he's done it. Or Bruce Willis, the same, like where they just like, I'm just, I've had my heyday, I've made loads of money, I've somehow spent all that money, and now I need to do all this absolute shit.
It does make you think, how can you spend that kind of money? But of course, we're not in that mindset, we're not in that world where suddenly, I mean, I know that a lot of these people, I read an article with one of the guys from Stranger Things, they said, yeah, on the surface, it sounds great, you get paid, I don't know, after a few seasons, a couple of millions of dollars. But I have an agent to pay. I have a manager to pay. I have this to pay. I've got that to pay. I didn't choose that. It just suddenly, as soon as I got a big TV show, all these people suddenly came in and I had to pay.
But I do actually think, certainly with like Nick Cage and Johnny Depp's another one, I think they had dodgy business managers as well who like siphoned off far more of their money than they should have been.
Kevin Bacon with his EE adverts.
Well, that was tax though, wasn't it? But I think that was because he put a load of money into Bernie Madoff's.
Bernie Madoff, yes, I think he did.
There's a couple of other celebrities that were caught in that, and they like, I've got $30 million in the bank. Oh, it's gone.
Yeah.
Disappointing. But yeah, anyway, that's another story. But no, I obviously I'm slightly differently built. But no, I respect that.
Yes, me too. And I'm glad that we ended on sort of the nicer people who sort of are seemingly good guys in the industry that sort of withdrew themselves rather than someone who's shown the door because they're such a terrible person on set and abusing people and getting into fights where an executive finally goes, okay, your movies don't make any money, you're just in Speed Racer, mate. No, here's the door, get out, goodbye, we don't want you anymore. Like,
wait until next week and there's like some news article about Jay Baruchel or something.
Yeah, gosh, kind of hope not.
Yeah, so do I.
That would be so disappointing.
There's someone else, there was an article today and I was like, I can't remember who it was. But
Aaron Eckhart, I mean, in hindsight, I wasn't surprised because I did wonder, where did he go? Like, he was in The Dark Knight and then an action movie or two and then these horrible, grotty, straight-to-DVD movies shot in back end of nowhere. I see. And if Abigail Preston's saying it, who is an industry professional, she's been around since she was a child, Oh, yeah, kind of makes sense, actually.
I'm actually, I mean, this is maybe a bit of a Brucey bonus one. David O. Russell seems to have disappeared, and that doesn't seem before time. Like, I feel like everyone I've ever heard talk about George Clooney has only got lovely things to say about him. And I think if you can make George Clooney punch you,
you must be a terrible person. You must be the worst person. I've heard nothing but bad things about him.
And I've also seen that video of him talking to Lily Tomlinson, and anyone who speaks to Lily Tomlinson like that, get the fuck out.
But it's true that, I mean, Hollywood is immoral in a lot of ways to allow people like Harvey Weinstein, but it does have a self-cleaning kind of thing that happens on set.
But only if they stop making money.
Only if they stop making money. Like, once you stop making money, if you misbehave on set, then they show you the door. But it is a case of what you have to be profitable.
But I think in most other industries in the world, not all, but in most other industries, if you are that difficult to work with, it doesn't matter how much money you're making, you get shown the door. You might get one extra chance than someone who's not making as much money, but you get shown the door eventually. Like, there is such a thing
like
as
a threshold.
Whereas in Hollywood, it that seems to be maybe
it's
more
a little
money
bit
linked. People are very much willing to turn a blind eye unless they're like...
absolutely. And it's like the difference between Colin Farrell in the early 2000s. They kept trying to make him a thing, like your man Armie Hammer. But the difference is that apparently he's lovely.
Yeah, I've heard he's lovely as well.
It meant
and Ryan Reynolds until
Deadpool. Exactly. So it got to a stage where it didn't matter how many flops there were. It may not be the leading man anymore, but they're going to find a place for Colin Farrell because why get rid of him? He's so nice.
Yeah, he's just nice to have around. I mean, no one disliked him, did they?
Even your Garrett Hedlunds and your Brandon Ruths and people, I mean, they didn't go and they're not stacking shelves. They're still in the industry. It's just not as quite as a desired spot as maybe they once hoped. So, you know, if you're nice and you've already got your foot in the door, even in a massive flop, you're not going to be shown the door. You might not be given the sweet spot plum role, but Brandon Ruth's been in a syndicated television show for 70 episodes, and Scott Pilgrim, Garrett Hedlund's in Tulsa King right now. I mean, they're not quite as plum roles, but they're around. They're sticking there.
Absolutely. What about Sam Worthington?
Sam Worthington, I think...
He was in the new Avatars, I suppose.
He was in the new Avatars.
It's still a massive film. Well, I'm sure he still got paid a decent lick of money for that.
To be honest, I haven't heard much from Sam Worthington since... kind of when his career sort of fizzled out. But I'm sure he's probably been in a religious movie or two. Those are the kinds of films that they give washed up actors in America. In fact, I think he was in one of those kind of evangelical films that make 60 million in the US and nothing elsewhere.
Yeah. The things that Melissa Joan Hart seemed to build a career on post Sabrina.
I don't think he's particularly religious or anything. I think it's just, it's work. They pay me.
As long as it's not as awful. Have you seen there's this thing now where they seem to make these like ultra right-wing movies that are like Ayn Rand. Yes. Ayn Rand's The Fountainhead.
They did try to they made a couple of them because the book's so big that they had to split it in like 4.
And they're always like produced by like Lawrence Fox is in like turns up in one of them or people like that. I don't think it's an Ayn Rand one that Lawrence Fox is doing, but it's some kind of like right-wing
he plays
book.
Hunter Biden.
Oh, that's it. Yeah. Oh, we're going to make a movie about them emails. First, we'll make a movie about Hillary's emails, then Hunter Biden's emails, because we're cunts.
Riveting cinema.
I mean, anything with Lawrence Fox. I mean, he looks like a deflated potato.
Someone said he looked like a haunted knick-knack.
I can't remember who... Oh, someone put a picture of him and Idris Elba next to each other the other day and was like, this is what being right-wing and old does to you. Or something.
Yeah, being right-wing, not once, not ever.
Yeah. Anyway. So that, I think, concludes our very special episode.
Yes.
Where, if someone wants to disagree with us or write things about, would people do that, Callum?
It's Untitled Film Podcast, and that's on Instagram, it's on Facebook, and we do have a YouTube video as well, and we do ask questions. It's kind of funny, we did this at the end now, but we did post a question of like, what is your basic bitch or kind of middle of the road film Twitter choice? Like, everybody's got something. Like, you know, we might think of ourselves as having great, unique taste, but do you think The Shawshank Redemption is the second best film of all time? Do you think the Oscars are always right? Do you think the Razzies are always right too? What is your basic bitch? I have one, and I think you said that you've got one.
Yeah, mine is that I really like Tom Cruise. Yeah. I think that Tom Cruise is like the consummate action star, and I went through a period, and I think he
like
became a bit he became a bit unbearable, and his box office went down, and I think the quality of the movies he was in kind of dropped a little bit then, and I was like, oh, maybe he's not that good. But then he started doing getting really good directors in to do Mission Impossibles, and then started doing like lots of, doing Tropic Thunder and doing some more fun things. I'm like, you know what, I do actually really like you. Hate Scientology, hate everything it stands for. Kind of really want to dislike you, but still,
just can't.
Yeah, I can't. I actually think you're really good. I think you are like the best action movie star probably ever.
Well, mine is that Paul Thomas Anderson is my absolute jam, and it's so film Twitter, film students, dorm room with a poster of Magnolia up. Magnolia is probably in my top 10, and it's such a
Tom Cruise movie.
Yeah, it's such a kind of cliche choice. Because, if you're 19 and you've watched one film and you think you're a film buff, Magnolia, Pulp Fiction, American Psycho, but I can't deny I really do like Magnolia. I've seen it a lot and I just really, really like it.
Well, you're talking to someone who watched last week a 1 hour long video essay into The Master. So,
cool.
I'm quite a PTA fan as well, to be fair. There Will Be Blood is fucking amazing.
I really like Inherent Vice as well.
Yeah. I really like Punch Drunk Love. I would agree with you on that. I don't think, well, it's kind of basic, I suppose.
It's basic only in the respect...
It's not as basic as Chris Nolan.
Yeah, it's only basic in the respect that a lot of his fans, it's often like baby's first cool filmmaker. Not his fault.
I would argue that's Chris Nolan, but then I also think that's people that stop. They go, I like films. Oh, do you? What's your favourite movie? I really like Chris Nolan. Okay, so you like okay films. You're not like
and all their favourite films are from the 90s, only from the 90s above.
Yeah,
like, they don't watch any old cinema.
No, it's like I really like that Good Will Hunting. It's
exactly.
a really good movie.
Such a masterpiece.
Such a masterpiece. Shawshank Redemption. Forrest Gump is the best film of all time. I really like how he runs.
But I fucking hate that Jenny, I do.
Yeah. Anyway. No, fair enough. But yeah, that is this episode, I think. Thanks very much, everybody.
Yes, thank you. And thanks for indulging us in one of the more fun kind of topic-y episodes.
Tell us your opinions and...
We'd love to hear from you.
Speak soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Shut up.